All right, good morning, everyone. We're beginning a new week. This week, for sure, Mashiach is coming. I hope even today, Mashiach is coming. Even this moment, Mashiach can come, just like a blink of an eye. But until then, let's give charity. Let's give charity. Charity is the answer, one of the answers to our problems. Charity helps, charity saves. Charity will bring the future redemption. Tzion mishpat tepodav shaveh tzedakah. Ein Yisrael Nigolim Ela B'Tzedakah. So we will give charity. Give for what you have to others. Don't be stingy. Okay, that's the beginning of the day. Now we're going to learn about, we're starting a new book of the Torah, the book of Exodus. The book is called Exodus. Okay, at first glance, you can look and see that it's sort of strange why the book is called Exodus, because it doesn't start off with Exodus. It starts off with the exile, at the exile. So the Jewish people are unusual people. Unusual. We got an unusual religion in Judaism. There's no other religion that is even vaguely, at least makes the claims, even that Judaism claims. What do we claim? We claim that there were a few people that realized what God was, and because of that, they were all put into Egypt. They were all put into slavery. All their children were put into slavery for like 210 years. And they were all, the whole entire nation was in slavery. They were all slaves for 210 years, the whole nation. And they maintained their identity, that they were the offspring of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I mean, there's no religion like that. There's no even nation like that. The whole nation was slavery, and they all got out. All of them got out. And then afterwards, they got out and they received the Torah. And they got out of Egypt with these amazing miracles, and they received a book from God Himself. There were about 3 million witnesses that all saw this. All the other religions, they also have books. There are a lot of religions in the world. There were religions that were there before Judaism. There was idolatry, was very rampant in the whole world, very popular. Everybody worshipped something. And in the last few years came, 100 years, 300 years, something like that, came atheism into the world. But before that, everybody believed in something or other. Believed. But the Jewish people here, we say that our religion, though, is that God Himself took us out of the war, out of Egypt, and He split the sea, and everybody saw this. There was millions of witnesses, and we've been passing this story down since it happened 3,300 years ago, and we've been celebrating it once a year. It's a special holiday where we sit around and we eat matzah, and we've been doing this. We've been doing this for 3,300 years, 3,000 whatever it is years. Without stop. When there was a temple, when there's not a temple, doing the okay. So you can ask a question. Number one, you can ask a question: why? What's it necessary? I mean, there's other religions that are tremendously successful, and Judaism, which has this amazing story, which is not repeated or simulated or copied by anybody, by any other nation, it's not doing that well. I mean, it's true that we've existed, but we've just been sort of like hanging on. There's just in a few million Jews. How many Jews are there now in the whole world? There's like 15 million Jews in the whole world. There's 15 million Jews in the world. Right? That's not that many people for a religion. That's it hardly I guess it qualifies for a religion that you put in the books. 15 million people. That's like a fan club. These people have fan clubs that are more than 15 million people. What are you talking about? Right? There are people that have YouTube memberships. What is it? Facebook memberships. More than 15 million people. And that's the Jews. And not only that, from the 15 million people that are Jews, much less than half of them, I think, maybe now it's changing, actually do the commandments. I mean, it should be that they made a survey in Israel. This was like about 30 years ago, and they discovered that about 75% of the non-religious Jews, the Jews that claim to be non-religious, they do some sort of a commandment. They put on tefillin once in a while. They eat kosher food. They don't eat not kosher food. A lot of them fast on Yom Kippur. Okay, but in any case, the religion has just sort of been, miraculously hanging on And they got a lot of enemies. People hate them. Anti-Semitism. There's no, anti-Buddhism and anti, Hinduism or anti-Christianism or something like that. There's not. So, and they've been hated for all over. They're blamed for everything. I read just now that people are blaming them for the fires in California. Israel is blamed. Not the Jews. Israel is blamed because they've got the power. They're blamed for the fires and they're blamed for everything. Okay, so the question is what is it for? Why did God put us all into Egypt and take us all out? And then he had to give us the Torah in public, right? These other religions, they have one person went into the desert or somewhere. He came out and I got a book. I have a revelation. I found a tablet. I found something. And then there's a religion. Oh, he's right. Let's bow down to him. And they all bow down and they make wars between each other. Our religion is right. Your version of this is right. And that's just from one guy. It came with a story, a group of people. They have a story that was like sort of passed down and it's changed to the. Okay, so why did God do it? Why did God put us in Egypt? What's the point? What's the point of the whole thing? So, okay, the point of the whole business is to bring Mashiach. That's the point. And Mashiach is going to make a world where everybody will simply see how incredibly valuable and holy this world is, this physical world. How incredibly precious each human being is. How much potential for good that people have. Up to now, humanity has revealed, 1%, a hundredth of a percent of the good that's hidden inside. Once in a while, you get a person, like with Tesla or whatever, or Albert Einstein or something like that, that they can come out with these amazing, ideas. You get, chess champions and musicians that are just, far superior to everybody else. And it's very rare. You have 8 billion people in the world, and one tooth stands out. Well, in the future, Mashiach is going to come. Everybody's going to stand out. Everyone will stand out. Everybody has something unique and will appreciate everything that everybody does. It's like we'll appreciate every rock, every movement, every this. We'll appreciate it because it'll be a whole different world. That's supposed to be what the Jews are supposed to do. That's sort of like it was before Adam ate from the tree. That's sort of what it was before Adam ate from the tree. Okay, so we're here, in other words, to show how wonderful and beautiful God's creation is. God's creation is, but on the other hand, that we can serve God. We can do what God wants. All right, here we go. Let's go. Ready? So this is Eila Shemot Bnei Israel. These are the names of the Jewish people that went into Egypt. That's how this week's Torah portion begins. Et Yaakov, Ish Ubeito, each person with his whole household, right? Yaakov, and also each head of the household and his household, they went into Egypt. There was only 70 people, right, that went into Egypt, it says. Hine b'parshat Vayigash, that was like 2 weeks ago. Ne'emar Gamke, it says the same thing. These are the names of the Jewish people that went into Egypt. Yaakov Ubanov, Yaakov and his sons. They went in, when Yaakov and his sons went in to meet Yosef. They didn't know it was Yosef yet. But that's how they went into Egypt. They all went into Egypt. Well, no, when Yaakov went in, they already knew it was Yosef. I'm sorry. They knew it was Yosef. They just been revealed that it was Yosef. And so they all went into Egypt. So it says that who went into Egypt. And now it's repeating it again. We have to understand, why is there repeated in the topic of them going into Egypt? We already knew it. Now, everything, and they have to remember that the Torah was written by God. The Torah is not written by Moses. Moses was like the secretary. He wrote it down, but it was dictated by God. Every letter was exact. And the Torah is very, very economical. Very economic. That's what the word economic. It's very stingy with its words. Very precise. Stingy is not a nice word. It's very precise with its words. Every word is exact. So if it repeats something, there must be some reason for it. We have to understand why. The Gamla, and we also have to understand the Shinuyim, the changes from over there in Parshas Vayigash, where it talks about the first time Yaakov and his sons went into Egypt, to now, because it's talking about the same people that went into Egypt. There, where it explains it, it says a little bit different. What does it say over there when they're going? It says Vayigash. What does it say over there? Vayigash. It says Elu Shmot. These are the names of the Jewish people, other people that came into Egypt. Yaakov and his sons. And here it says, here are the names of the Jewish people that went into Egypt. Yaakov. Each one in his family came in. Let's see here. Let's go into it a little bit more. Kanemar, it says, Haboim that come into Egypt at Yaakov, together with Yaakov. Uboim, Vayigash, and Vayigash, it says, Haboim Mitzrayim, Yaakov. It doesn't say at Yaakov, together with Yaakov. It says the ones that went into Egypt began with Yaakov. Yaakov's one that went into Egypt. Or also, we have to understand what it says in Parshas Vayigash, Bnei Yisrael. It says, who are the Jewish people? Bnei Yisrael, Aboim Mitzrayim. It says, Yaakov. Yaakov is one of the people that went into Egypt. Boim Bnei Yisrael. It says Yaakov is one of them. It doesn't say et Yaakov. But we also understand why it says in Parshas Vayigash Bnei Yisrael. It says in Parshas Vayigash the Jewish people, and it says Yaakov u'banav. The Yaakov is included with Bnei Yisrael. Right here, what does it say by us? These are the names of the Jewish people that went into Egypt. What are the names? These are the names of the Jewish people. Who are the names of the Jewish people? Yaakov, and each one has family. They all came in. And Vayigash, it says, these are the names of the sons of Israel. And who are the sons of Israel that came into Egypt? Yaakov and his sons. So Yaakov is one of the Bnei Yisrael, but Yaakov is Yisrael. The Bnei Yisrael, those are the sons of Yaakov. Here it says, Aboy Mitzrayim at Yaakov. It says the ones that came into Egypt, they were Yaakov. And then after that, it says Aboy Mitzrayim, Yaakov. Oh, I'm sorry, we read that already. It says Yaakov u'banav shekolo Yaakov gam came b'chol b'nei Yisrael. It says that Yaakov is one of the sons of Yisrael, but Yaakov, he is Israel. So Yaakov is his own son. What does that mean? Like it says, Lo Yaakov Yomer Ol Shemecha Ki Im Yisrael. Yaakov's name was changed to Yisrael. So over there by Parshas Vayigash, it says that the sons of Yisrael went into Egypt. What was one of the sons of Yisrael? Yaakov. Strange. If so, if so, how can they be called the sons of Israel? And Israel was one of his own sons. Okay. So there's differences. First of all, why does it repeat it? And why does it repeat it with different language? Right? In Parshas Vayigash 2 weeks ago, it says that the Jewish people went into Egypt, and it says who they are. Right? It says who they are. The sons of Yaakov. Who are the sons of Yaakov? Yaakov is not one of his sons. Okay, but it says here, over here, it says these are the names of the Jewish people that went into Israel with Yaakov, right? With Yaakov. They went into with Yaakov. So Yaakov was not one of the sons of Israel. Yaakov. Okay. So the Indian is like this. All right, so let's take a step back here and try to understand, just realize what's going on. The Jewish people were put into Egypt for a special purpose. What is that purpose? We'll find out. The Jewish people are unlike any other nation in the world, any other religion in the world. Why? Why does it have to be different? Why is it so different? Maybe it's hinted at over here where it says that the Jewish people, the sons of Yaakov that went into Egypt, were Yaakov and his sons. That's what it says in Vayigash. It says Yaakov was his own son. Why does it have to mention it twice who went into Egypt? We'll see. It says that the Jewish people were going to go down. We are going to go down into Egypt. And also when the Jewish people went out of Egypt. Yetzias Mitzrayim v'geula. It says Anochi elcha gamalo. God said, I will take you out. I will take you up from Egypt. Take you up, up. Ale na'ale. Let us go up, up. So it seems that going out of Egypt or going into Israel is called going 2 times up, and going down into Egypt is called 2 times going down. Hainu Beis Aliyos, 2 times going up. This is an elevation after elevation. Ube'emet, and really, when they left Egypt, they only went once, like it says, Le'eschem, Ani Mitzrayim. Leaving Egypt, they did only once. The Jews left Egypt, and that's it. Then they were in the desert, and then they went into Israel, but those are not going out of Egypt. That's not going out of Egypt. Going out of Egypt, they did 1 time. And then afterwards, they went out of the desert. Okay, but that's not going out of Egypt. They went out of it. So why does it say 2 times going out of Egypt? What is going out of Egypt? Okay, so again, the Jewish people are the only ones that were in exile, and they all went out of exile. What's this idea of going out of exile? Here it seems to imply that going out of exile means going out of Egypt, you have to go up 2 levels. But you go up 1 floor, you're still in Egypt. To land of, okay. So it says, I will take you out of Egypt, I will elevate you from Egypt to a land that's flowing milk and honey. 1 time, 1 time going up. Okay, so what does it mean going out, going up, going up? It says because Aliyah Zu, this second elevation that says you're going to go up from Egypt, is talking about Geula Atida, the future redemption, which is going to be Bimheira B'Yameinu Amen. Who would believe it? We are now in Egypt. Who would believe it? This is not just a story. We are now in Egypt. The story says that the Jewish people were in Egypt. They were there for a long time. And they served, they worked, and they came out. Interesting story. Yeah, but it was a thing that happened 3,000 years ago. And who knows if it really happened? Who knows? It could be, maybe not, maybe yeah, they made it up. Okay, it's pretty hard to say it didn't happen if they've been repeating it for 3,300 years, but who knows? Maybe, yeah, maybe. In any case, it was a long time ago. If it happened, it's a long time ago. It's not relevant to now. It says not only what happened back there is relevant to now, but we're in it now. Right now, we're in Egypt. And interestingly enough, when a person is in Egypt, he doesn't know it. When the Jews were in Egypt, when they were in Egyptian slavery, so they didn't know it. They didn't even want to go out. They didn't want to go out. They weren't aware that they were slaves. They thought that was life. That's what life is, right? You just hope you'll get, it'll be an easy day today, that he won't get beaten so much, that he'll get his food. That's it. The Jews were in Egypt for 4 years. They already were total slaves. They were slave mentality. When Moses came and said, I'm taking you out, they didn't know what Moses was talking about. They didn't want to hear Moses from Avodah Kasha, even though they were told that they were going to go out one day. It was known by the Jewish people, but they didn't, and they couldn't believe, they couldn't fathom what this could possibly be. How could there be anything more free than being, than just having a good day, not getting beaten or something? Jews didn't want to live. Okay. You can see if it says, it's a prophecy from Micha, that the Torah connects the going out of the future, that we're going to go out of the exile we're in now to going out of Egypt. Okay, now what type of an exile are we in now? If we compare it to being in Egypt, right? In Egypt, they were really in slavery. I mean, they couldn't go where they wanted. They couldn't do what they want to. Nobody had their own, their own freedom. You were a slave. You had to work all day from morning to night. You were a slave. Your father was a slave. Your grandfather was a slave. Your great-grandfather was a slave. That's a slave. A Jew is a slave. A Jew is synonymous with being a slave. That's back then. Now, what are we talking about? How are we in slaves now? What type of slavery are we in now? And so the Rebbe is trying to point out to us that, in fact, we are in slavery, and that by thinking we're not in slavery, we're in the same situation as the Jews didn't want to go out of Egypt. and it had to be Moses had to come and convince them, and he convinced them with these big miracles and things like this. In the future, we won't have to have these big miracles. In the future, every Jew is going to want to be connected to the creator of the universe and not to be connected so much to himself. That's the point. Now we are enslaved in our own our own limited perception of what is reality, what is the world, what is good, what is bad. Now our value system is what's good for me is good, what's not good for me is not good. And in the future, it's going to be what's good for God is good, and what's not good for God is not good. What God wants, that's good. What I want is not necessarily good. Not necessarily, could be good if it is in tune with what God wants. That's what's talking about going out of Egypt. We'll talk about that more. Essentially, being in Egypt now means loving yourself, being afraid for yourself. And in the future, it's going to be loving the creator, loving your creator. Everybody's going to feel the creator, loving the creator and being afraid of doing something that the creator doesn't want. Okay, we'll see. It says in the future, we're going to go out of Egypt. We're going to go out of it. There's going to be big changes in the world. The people are going to start looking at what is a Jew differently and what is God differently and what is the Torah differently. They're going to start looking at the world like Hasidut looks at the world. And just like everything is exact, everything that happened in Egypt was exactly, that you say, it directed, and it was exactly done by God, that they were in Egypt for how long? For 210 years. It was in order to merit to go out of Egypt and receive the Torah face to face with God. Like it says, like God said to Moses at the burning bush. What was the burning bush? The burning bush was on Mount Sinai. Moses was tending the sheep and suddenly saw a bush that was burning and it didn't stop. And Moses said, I'm going over to see what this is. And then God spoke to him. God spoke to him from this burning bush. Strange story, bizarre story. God spoke to him from the burning bush. And he said, Moses, you're going to take the Jewish people out of Egypt. And this is the sign you're going to take the Jewish people out of Egypt. You're going to serve God on this mountain. You're going to serve me on this mountain. That's when the Jewish people became servants. Up to now, they were the sons of God. Moses went into Paro and said, Paro, I got a message from you, from God. Paro said, who's God? What are you talking about? How did you get in here? He said, just listen to the message. We'll talk about it later. Message from God. Let my son, my firstborn, B'ni B'chor Yisrael, let my sons go to serve me. Shalach et ami v'yavduni. My son, my firstborn, the Jewish people will call the son, the chosen one. B'chor here means first son, chosen ones. My son, my chosen ones, Israel, I want them to go out to serve me. They're going to be my servants. Ta'avdun et Elokim al ha'arazeh, that they will begin to be my servants at Mount Sinai. Kach, also the same thing is going to happen now. Arichat ha'galut, this exile, this terribly long exile, it's over 2,000 years. We were in Egypt for 210 years. Here we've been almost 2,000 years since the temple was destroyed. Ukadei is in order. It's only in order to merit the Gilui Panimius Torah, to reveal the inside of the Torah. That it's going to be in the future. That's what Hasidut is a taste of this Torah that's going to be in the future. In other words, to feel that when you're learning the Torah, you're actually learning, you're saying the words, God's words. It's like you're a prophet. You're saying the words of God. Torah, when the Jewish people received the Torah on Mount Sinai, they received the revealed Torah. Of a panimius tamia Torah, but the inner reasons for the Torah, Gila will be revealed to them in the future. Nowadays, we put on tefillin, we keep Shabbat, we put a mezuzah on the door, you do tzit, you put on tzitzit, you fast on Yom Kippur. All these commandments you do because God wants it. God says he wanted it. You know what God is? I don't know. I mean, I can tell you a few things about God. He creates the world. He took us out of Egypt. I have absolutely no idea how he creates the world, how he took us out of Egypt. I just know that God exists and he gave us the Torah and he's creating us. and he's creating us, and he's creating the world, and there's things that he wants us to do, and there's commandments. And there's books of Kabbalah that tell you a little bit about what happens when you do a commandment. But who feels it? Who understands? You can maybe logically understand it, but to actually feel it, you don't feel it, which is not the case today. For instance, money. Money, you don't have to understand. You don't have to understand the economics of how the what is it, the stock market works or something like that. You understand that you buy this stock and it goes up, you make money, and that's it. And you're happy. Oh, you feel great. You have money in your hands. You feel happy because you feel the money. That's the money. You can do things with money. On the other hand, you do a commandment. What does it do? You don't feel anything. You don't feel, you get another number or something in your spiritual account. Says that's now, but in the future, it's not going to be that way. We'll feel the godliness, not the spirituality. The spirituality you can feel maybe a little bit now. You'll feel the godliness of the commandments. And that it says, I will show you miracles. Remember, we just finished learning that in the days of the Moshiach, the main thing is going to be that we'll do the commandments. We'll really feel the commandments. Like it says, ayin ba'ayin yir'u. Like it says in the future, eye to eye we will see. Everyone will see God. What do you mean you'll see God? Like in the Holy Temple, you would see that God is creating me and feel I'm being created. Every instant, most natural feeling in the world. Here I am, but you'll feel a reason for nature. You'll feel that nature itself is a miracle. The same thing, that's why the Jews were in Egypt as slaves and exiles. Like it says, it says in Egypt, it says that the Jewish people, that the Egyptians made their lives bitter, with hard work, with cement and with bricks, and all sorts of hard work in the field. How is this relevant now? We're working in cement and in bricks and in work of the field. What are you talking about? What type of work? What type of cement and bricks are we working in now? This is referring to now as well as back then. Back then they worked with physical bricks and physical cement. Now Yamaru et Chayim. Now our life is bitter with what? With Torah. Because Chayenu, our life is the Torah, and the Torah makes us bitter. How does the Torah make you bitter? Because if you learn the Torah, if you learn the Torah, you can take it at just simple face value and read the Torah, and that's it. You read it. It's a book. You can read it over, right? It's translated into English, translated into this. Nice stories. And a little bit weird stories. Abraham took his son to sacrifice him, and Abraham circumcised himself. It's a bit weird. There's no mention in the 5 books of Moses of heaven and hell and things like that, which is is weird for a religion. But okay, but it's a book. But if you start to really learn the Torah and you want to really understand it, then it becomes difficult. And even, let's say, for instance, you read the Chumash, the 5 books of Moses, simple stories over there, right? And you read it, and then you look and you see the commentary of Rashi. And suddenly you realize, maybe I didn't understand it so much. And it says that Rashi only explains things that a 5-year-old child would ask. 5-year-old child would ask. And so you can start asking, well, why a 5-year-old child would ask that? Why would a child? Then you start to read, like, for instance, the speeches that the Rebbe gave on Rashi. And how he explains Rashi. All of a sudden, you see all new ideas popping up from every genius idea that Rashi is. You see how amazing that the Torah is. And then after that, you start to read, you realize, hey, maybe I don't understand a lot. And you try to understand it, and you can read the Torah, and you come up with answers. Oh, I got it. I got an answer. You go and tell the rabbi, listen, I got an answer. And the rabbi says, good try, but it's completely wrong because it says something else in another place. Yeah, I guess you're right. Well, good thing I talked to the rabbi, I could have really made a mistake. And this whole mountains of ideas that are built, of religions even, that are built on false interpretations of the Torah, taking the Torah for face value. But if you want the true understanding, that's difficult. Then you have to really work at the Torah. And there's a lot of laws. There's a whole Talmud. If you read the Talmud, the Talmud is just questions and answers and arguments between Shammai and Hillel. And Shammai is sure he has it right, and Hillel is sure he's got it right. And there it says their opinions are the opinions of God. Their opinions of God. God wants them to argue. He wants one side to have opinions that are not accepted. So learning the Torah demands a lot of very difficult and frustrating hard work. Therefore, usually you learn the Torah, you try to learn the Torah with a partner so that you can work things out. You say an idea, he says an idea. You don't rely on your own ideas. That's why it's a bad thing about being a hermit. You're always right. You never come in contact with people. You never get corrected. The same thing is with learning Torah. You learn Torah alone, it's not so good. You can very easily get the wrong ideas. So it says if you really want the true understandings of the Torah, so it's a lot of hard work. Avoda kashet, it's hard work. It says chomer. This is what's called a kol v'chomer. Kol v'chomer is one of the principles by which the Torah is learned. Kol v'chomer. If it says something over here, then for sure it means something when the same word is used. So another place, kol v'chomer. V'kol avoda b'sada, this is called the breita. The sada is outside. That's outside. That's the breita. Those are the explanations of the Torah. Ubilaveni, this is libun hilchata. This is taking the actual law and learning the actual law. There's a very amazing, in the Torah, there's the Torah, which God gave, and then there's the Talmud, which mostly explains the laws and all the arguments about the laws and all the different sides. What does it mean over here? What does this mean? And then after that, it comes to actually, okay, what do we really do? What do we actually do? And then there was a great genius person. First of all, Maimonides. He was the first one to really codify all of the whole entire Torah and put it what to do. And then there's people who disagree with the Rambam, which were the people of the same status and the same fear of God that the Maimonides had, right? Very rare, but these people were great. And sometimes they have opinions which are the opposite. And then there have to be people to come. Now, all this is directed by God. This is only done with the help of God, but these are people who had tremendous faith and fear and love of God. But nevertheless, through this come all of the laws, what we actually have to do. Just now there was a whole big discussion in the synagogue about certain things, what time to do this, what time to do that. They looked at the books. This person brought this proof. So it says, okay, so nowadays, what do we have to do to get out of the exile? Is the Torah, learning the Torah. We're learning the Torah just like then they suffered in exile, and they with cement and with bricks and working hard, and God had mercy on them, took them out. So the same thing is now we're working at the Torah and trying to understand with the understanding and using the different principles of learning, and finally coming to the proper conclusion and what is actually the law. What should we actually do? It says nowadays, ein biyadenu halacha barura. The laws are not 100% clear. V'din barur ki kol dinei Torah, because all the laws of the Torah, b'machloket shenuya, all the laws of the Torah, there's different opinions. Halalu machshirin, these people say kosher, these people say this thing is pure, other people say it's not. In the Mishnayot it says. There are certain things which are not argued about. But when you get down to the details, there's a lot of arguments about the details. This does not mean that people don't know what to do, so let's just do nothing. What it means is that it's not clear what to do. We know we have to do. And you have to just ask your rabbi which opinion to take. That's why a lot of times the Sephardic Jews, they go according to the Beit Yosef, and the Ashkenazic Jews, a lot of times they go according to the Reb Moshe Isserlis, right? And they argue into this. It's incredible. And of course, a person can ask a question, how can it be all these different opinions? And nobody knows what's right. They don't know it. So they're just making up things. So the answer is no. All of the opinions are God's opinions. Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. They're all the opinions of God. It's just that some of them are accepted and some of them are not. In Cain, if so, Kamosh al Yedei Shibud Mitzrayim, just like what it was when they were in Egypt, working in Egypt, in cement and bricks. Look, and therefore, they merited to receiving the Torah. Also now, by us working hard at the Torah and slaving away, trying to understand the Torah, libun hilchaso, by making the laws clear and clean, and now we will merit to the inside of the Torah, the godliness of the Torah in the future. Lirot erenu niflot, we'll see miracles, and that essentially Hasidut is giving us a taste of that. Taste of it. In the days of the Mashiach, these ideas will be inside of us. We'll feel the preciousness of it. Just like now, automatically you feel, you see money, you feel excited, right? You got another $1,000 in your bank account. Wow, where did that come from? Right, I'm really happy. You win the lottery, you feel even more happy temporarily. That's what it's going to be by doing commandments. People will feel. Maybe you'll have to go to rabbis to ask them, what am I feeling when I do the commandments? That's called the inside Torah. And now let's understand. Okay, so we are now in exile. We don't realize it. We don't see how precious life is, how amazingly unique every human being is, how holy this physical world is. We don't see it. We don't feel it. Every detail, every second of life is a miracle, a gift. We don't feel it. We don't see it. We don't really. Okay, so how do we get out of it? How do we really begin to see what's really real? As says the Rebbe, but that's by means of learning Torah, and learning Torah with great, how do you say, effort, really trying to get to the truth of every law, everything. Okay, says the Rebbe. That's, of course, there's other places where it says that's not enough. Yeah, that certainly is basic. You have to give charity also. You have to love one another. Etc. Okay, but now we're talking about this one aspect, learning Torah. Learning Torah. We just finished doing the commandments. Okay, but now let's learn about this one aspect is learning Torah. For sure, that is an essential element in getting us out of this exile and seeing what real meaning is. I just read a paper about the getting out of addictions. Getting out of addictions. How do they call it? Rehab. Getting out of addictions. People are addicted to all sorts of crazy things in the world. Addicted. How do you get out of it? So there's all of these different methods, and all of them work to a certain degree. None of them work for everybody. Some of them work better, a hard approach, and some easier approach. But basically, all of these addictions come from because people, they have no meaning in their lives. They have no meaning in their lives. They can't take any difficulties in life. Even the smallest thing knocks them over. And so they're very prone to grab onto something that they consider to be secure. And for some people, it's drugs. For some people, it's this, but there's no meaning. That's a real sign that we're in exile, that there's no meaning in life. Life is the most meaningful thing in the world. Life, there's no meaning. A person doesn't have meaning, just the fact that he's alive. It's an amazing thing. You have meaning, even the last second of life. That's Professor Viktor Frankl's way of looking at things. And I think he's 100%. And so did the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He praised them very, very highly. Meaning, one big thing Mashiach is going to bring is going to fill the world with meaning. Everything will have meaning. Everything will be meaningful. When that happens, then there won't be any more addictions. And there won't be any more aggression. People won't have to be angry that somebody else has more than what I've got. You can't have more than what I've got. I'm alive. That's the biggest gift of all. In addition, you have a little more money. You have a little more. That's a side thing. Okay, so says the Rebbe, how are we going to get out of it? By Jewish people learning the Torah. Jewish people learning the Torah. That, by the way, is why it's so important. Boys sitting and learning the Torah. Learning the Torah. In Israel, there was always this big argument about going to you're learning the Torah. You're a bunch of parasites. You have to go to the fight in the army. So the army, of course, is important. You have to have an army. There's no, the Jewish people always had an army. You have to have an army. But on the other hand, you also have to learn Torah. Because if you don't have the Torah, you don't know what you're fighting for. You have no idea what you're fighting for. So there has to be, and in addition, it says that the Torah also gives the power. So the Torah is tremendously important. Here the Rebbe is saying, here's an importance you didn't know. You're learning the Torah and trying to get to the bottom of every law and idea. Now, this is, of course, only for Jews. Non-Jews are not supposed to learn the Torah in this way. Non-Jews are supposed to learn the Torah to know what to do. You learn a book, you have a book that tells you what to do. It doesn't have to be all these arguments and difficulties. According to some opinions, it says also non-Jews also have to follow all the monetary laws of the Torah also. Okay, but now with all the laws and the how do you say the arguments and going into deeply in the ideas of the Torah, this is mainly for the Jews. The Jews learning the Torah in such a way is what's going to take everybody out of exile, because the Jews were in exile. The whole thing revolves around the Jews and the Torah that God gives to the Jews. Okay, it says Yesh Latim. We have to understand. Now let's understand, what does it mean learning the Torah in such a way that we we work hard to understand the laws. That's what's going to bring redemption. How is it going to be? So let's see. That's what's going to be the redemption in the future. Okay, Leish Lahakdim. Let us proceed. The explanation of what it means. Melech Meshubach Umfoar Ade Ad Shemo Agadol. What does it mean that God is a king, that he is praised and exalted forever and ever? His great name. His great name. We see this in Bruch Shalmar, right in the beginning of prayers, right? Let me just have a look over here. I say it every morning, and I don't pay attention to what I say. Here we go. Yes, here we go. No. Yes. In Bruch Shalmar. Can you see it here? Here. Melech Meshubach for our Ade Ad Shmo Gadol. See here. Baruch Atah Hashem. What does it mean? That's how we start our prayers off. That with God as a king, that he is praised and exalted forever and ever. His great name. His great name. Okay, let's understand what this means, because after all, what are we talking about here? We're talking about God, right? We're talking about God. We're going to feel how God is creating us, how God is putting meaning in everything, why God is creating. Let's understand something about God. That's the whole thing of Mashiach, is to reveal God. How close God is, how amazing God is, how wonderful God is, how much God loves us, how he cares about each one of us, he creates us. Okay, let's talk about God. Which, by the way, that's the big sign that we're in exile now, that we don't know what God is. We don't know. God is like some sort of a topic, you read about in the library or somewhere, synagogue. Hine tachlit, you read it in Neshama, the whole purpose of the God putting the soul down into this physical world. You read it Sorech Aliyah, that God put the soul into the world in order that there should be an elevation. He kadei lechazod b'noam Hashem, that it should see the pleasantness of God in the future world, and Gan Eden Elyon, and the upper Gan Eden and the lower Gan Eden. This is the soul, the grasping of the soul, in understanding of the soul, and getting pleasure from the ray of the Shekhinah. That this is a tremendous pleasure. Ad ein case, without any end. Believable, without any. Okay. So here the Rebbe is sort of going out of the usual, line of logic of Chassidut. What do you want to call it? Not the logic, let's say the selling approach of Chassidut. What's the sales approach of Chassidut? That all the heavenly worlds are like nothing. The main reason we're here is for God to be revealed here. Says the Rebbe, that's true, that's really true, but let's not minimize the amazing, miraculous pleasure that there is in going to heaven. Going to heaven. The soul comes down into from the wherever it comes into the world, in order, is in order that it will elevate and go up to heaven, and in heaven you'll get all these tremendous rays of godliness, which is infinite pleasure that cannot be attained in this world. In the books of Kabbalah, usually it's mentioned only Gan Eden Elyon and Gan Eden Tachton. It's called the lower heaven and the upper heaven. Usually that corresponds to what's called the Olam of the world of Yetzirah and the world of Bria. Dimensions of godliness. There's two levels of heaven, lower heaven and upper heaven. But really, there's a lot of levels of heaven, the Tanugim, and levels of pleasure, ad and kates, without any end. And this is what it means, praised and exalted forever and ever, higher and higher. Like it says that tzaddikim, in la menucha, tzaddikim, after they die, they have no rest in the world to come. They go from strength to strength. V'noam Hashem, the pleasant, the how do you say the pleasure, the pleasantness of God, v'hatainug, and the pleasure that you get, who is Gilui Mishamo. This is just a revelation of God's name. Of Albat Kadai Kol Yisuri Gehenim, it's worthwhile all the pains of hell, Kadei Lechazod, in order to receive the pleasures of God, like it says, Mutav L'Daneu, L'Yidene, to judge him. We talked about this before. Very shortly, it means that there was a Jew in the history of Judaism called Acher, Elisha ben Avua. And Elisha ben Avua, he was a big time sinner. He was a real sinner, and he was a tremendous Torah genius. He was one of the people that went with Rabbi Akiva into the secrets of the Torah. And because he went into these mystical secrets, it says that he went a little bit, he went off the track, and he decided that there's two gods. And anyway, he did all sorts of sins and everything. And when he died, so he couldn't go to heaven because he did all sorts of sins, but he also couldn't go to hell because he had learned a lot of Torah genuinely and done a lot of good deeds. So he complained to one of his followers in a dream, and the follower prayed for him that he would go to hell. And he would go to hell, and that he would be judged in hell. It says that the pains of hell are so intense, it's like 1 second of pain in hell is like 1,000 years on the dentist's chair, drilling your teeth with no Novocaine or whatever they use nowadays, with no anesthetic. Incredible pain that there's in hell. It says it's worth it. It's worth all the pain. It says, Asher Kadai Kal Yasuri Gehenim. It's worth all the pains of hell in order just to get a little bit of the pleasure of God. Like it says, it's better that he should be judged in hell. So that's the pleasure. That's why we're here in the world, in order to get this pleasure from heaven. From heaven. Okay, that's what we're holding now. We'll see that there's something much more essential than that, but let's leave it with this. The pleasure which is in heaven is incomprehensibly great, that any or all of the pleasures you could possibly get in the world. With you, who knows, you bring the president of the United States, and with all the money in the world and all the pleasures you could possibly have are nothing compared to the pleasures of heaven, and that's only the lower heaven. And then there's levels and levels and levels of pleasure. The rabbis say that Abraham, he chose Shibud Galus Tachat Yasuri Gehenim. Says that Abraham, he chose to go into exile. God gave him a choice. Abraham was the father of the Jews, right? So God said, okay, you can choose for your people. What do you want? In order that they should get the future redemption, either to go to hell or to be in exile. Because the idea of going to hell is in order to refine the soul. Mi cholos hara, from the how do you say, the diseases of bad, asher bekirba, which is inside the soul. Of kesef, the soul, a person gets in the world and he starts becoming egotistical. The ego that he has, he wants money, he wants this in the world, that becomes ingrained in his soul. It becomes like a stain in the soul. When a person dies, what is he going to? He doesn't need money. What type of pleasures is he going to get? He's going to run after drugs and after power and pleasure and popularity. There's no such thing after a person dies. It's just the soul. And the soul, what's the soul going to do? So the soul has to be cleaned out. So it's cleaned out from the psulos, from the bad things and the dregs, and they get burned that's what hell is for. What can we do? And what's remained, just like you put natural impure silver into a crucible, it comes out, the dregs go on one side, the dregs float up or whatever, they go down, and the silver is pure. That comes out pure silver. It's pure from any sort of impurities, shetochel nefesh lakabel, or then the soul, just like this pure silver, the soul is, of course, consciousness, and it can receive this pure pleasure of God and get pleasure from the godliness which is in the upper worlds. But first of all, it has to go through the fire of hell in order to be refined. So God said to Abraham, which would you rather the Jewish people, which type of refinement would you rather the Jewish people receive in order to get, undergo, in order to receive these tremendous pleasures of heaven? So Abraham said, well, hell would be pretty good, but I think that Gullus, exile, is better. Gullus, exile is also tziruf nefesh. Gullus, exile also refines the soul. Like it says, Mikora Barzom in Mitzrayim. And Gullus Edom, this exile that we're in, it's called the exile of Rome that we've been in for the last 2,000 years. The Romans destroyed the temple, right? This is called Kor Oni. It's called also the crucible of poverty. So, in other words, a person goes to hell, and hell cleans you automatically. Same thing is going through exile. So, a person can say, you can say to yourself, "What are you talking about? What is he talking about?" Exile just makes you do sins. You go into exile, and you're thrown in with all these non-Jews, and you want to act like them. You want to be friends with them. You want to eat with them and do with them, right? And being a Jew is a very not good thing. Who wants to be a Jew in this world, right? Everybody hates you. Everybody this. What do you need it for, right? It says, but you can't get out of it. You can't get out of it. Like the Zionists, they tried to get out of it. We'll just be people like everybody else. It doesn't work. Like they hate you because two reasons now. Because of this. See, but nevertheless, being in exile makes you leave Judaism. Doesn't make you. How is that going to purify us being in exile? So the Rebbe is going to explain this. The Rebbe is going to explain this. How it is that now the Jewish people being in exile, this is really somehow or other a correction for the Jewish people. And it's somehow or other even a more efficient and complete correction than it would be going to hell. That it purifies us and refines us. How is this going to be? We're going to find out, God willing, tomorrow. Stay with us. Okay. Now let us do the Yom. 1 second. No, the Bar Malchut. 1 second. Where's this? Here we go.